The following is a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
Crossed Flags, a racing podcast. It's your midweek fix for racing news and information. Brought to you by the Championship Racing Network. Now let's head trackside to join your hosts, Steve West and Matt Nicholson.
Welcome into a double-digit episode. That's right, we made it to episode 10. Who knew we'd get this far? I'm Steve West, that's Matt Nicholson, and as you can tell, we're dressed for this occasion. We're going to be very NASCAR heavy this week, and later on in the show, it is Darlington Throwback Weekend, so we figured we'd throw back to when we were at Darlington.
We are.
2019. It's what this year is. It's been that long.
The original Throwback Weekend.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of fun there, and if you ever get the chance to go to Darlington, we highly suggest it.
Yes.
We also want to talk about Kansas because, hey, welcome to the new closest finish in the top levels of NASCAR's history. But there's controversy. Of course there is.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that. But first, a little bit of breaking news. We've been following this whole idea of whether or not Stewart-Haas Racing may or may not sell a charter or multiple charters or whatever. And it does seem to be gaining a lot more ground here.
Or according to some people, the whole outfit.
Yeah.
Which I don't think holds water.
Yeah, I'm not sure that holds water. I could see him maybe selling one, possibly two charters leading towards a merger, which that's a rumor. And again, understand where we're going with this. Mm-hmm. We don't like to play with rumors, but we're going to throw the rumors out there because they are out there.
Right.
Again, Stewart-Haas Racing has not signed a deal with any car maker, Chevrolet, Ford, or Toyota in NASCAR past this year. Their deal with Ford runs out at the end of the year, and they don't have anything for 2025. That, of course, does lead to a lot of speculation. We've heard everything from Dale Jr. is going to buy in, and they're going to keep the Ford charters, and they're going to switch to Chevrolet. Now we're hearing they've been talking to other teams about selling maybe one, maybe two charters and paring down, and then we still have to figure out what car company they're going to be going with. We've also heard that they're going to merge in with Front Row Motorsports.
There are so stinking many rumors that have hit the social media channels and digital airwaves, let's call it that.
Yeah.
That you're going, huh?
In the end, I'm going to revert back to exactly what Tony Stewart himself said leading into this 2024 season. Don't believe anything you hear, read, or see unless it is directly attributable to me.
Bingo.
And that brings us to another bit of news, speaking of Front Row Motorsports.
Yeah. This happens this morning.
But yeah, as we do the podcast on Wednesday, this morning, you sent me a text, Matt, that said, Michael McDowell's leaving Front Row Motorsports at the end of the year, just announced today. And I was like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
So I asked the obvious question. Did he say where he was going? No. Which kind of led me to believe that maybe there's something in the works, because every once in a while you'll get a driver that switches from one team to another, but they make the announcement they're going to leave Team A, but don't announce Team B that they're going to join because there's a contractual obligation.
Sure.
In this case, turned out not to be. A couple hours afterward, we found out that Spire Motorsports is going to put Michael McDowell in the 71 car. So he's switching from Ford to Chevrolet.
1.
He's going to Spire.
2.
And Front Row Motorsports is suddenly left without the guy who probably is their biggest threat to win, with all due respect to the teammate Todd Gilliland.
Was, because we all know what happens when drivers announce they're going to leave teams. Suddenly, you're not in the meetings anymore.
Yeah.
Suddenly, you're not privy to information here, there, or whatnot.
And they can sit there and put out the statements all they want, and Front Row Motorsports has. And they've come out and they said, hey, we appreciate everything that Michael McDowell has been doing, and we look forward to the remainder of the year. But when you know that your future is not with Michael, but over there probably more likely with Todd Gilliland, you tend to put more resources over there to the guy that's going to be sticking around next year and beyond.
Yeah, you do. But the thing that makes me just kind of just scratch my temple and go, huh? You're leaving a Tier 1 OEM team.
Mm-hmm.
Front Row has picked up leaps and bounds since last summer to current day.
And have gotten the attention not only of everybody on the NASCAR grid as far as actually being a threat for polls and top 10s, top 5s, and maybe even wins. You've garnered the attention of the Ford Motor Company, who is now going all in on backing you as an organization.
And you're allied with, and in all sense of the word, on a weekly basis, outperforming across the board Team Penske.
Which, when was the last time we said that Front Row Motorsports was outperforming Team Penske?
You're leaving a Tier 1 OEM team and going to a Tier 2? There's one thing that I can gather out of this right here. Spire wrote another awfully large check.
Well, yeah. Yeah, and we kind of figured that they would. And if I'll give Spire Motorsports a lot of credit. I mean, this is a team that came in a few years ago, bought one charter, put out the 77 car, and just kind of put anybody who had the opportunity to drive in the car.
Yeah, it seems like 476 drivers have driven the 77 since its existence.
Exactly. But since then, they have taken this and they have gotten very serious about becoming a good, I can't say top level yet because they have yet to make that next step for me. But they really want to make sure that they're going to be here for the long term.
Sure.
I mean, think about the money that they went out and they spent last year. They spent, reports have, $40 million to buy that charter.
That's one. Not two, that's one.
For one charter. Think about that now when it comes to Stewart Haas Racing, and they're talking about selling one, maybe two charters. The price has already been set.
They buy out a complete Truck Series operation, lock, turnkey.
Yeah, lock, stock, barrel, turnkey operation, all the trucks, everything that went with that, and reportedly the price for the old Kyle Busch Motorsports Truck Series team was what, $25 million?
About $25 million.
So for a charter and a Truck Series operation, they reportedly spent $65 million last year. That means they're serious about being in the sport. Okay, great. Fantastic.
Now, right now, the Truck Series side's paying off.
It is.
They're winning races.
It is. I would agree with that. Again, you want to show me that you're actually serious about being in this sport. You've shown me that. Now you've gone out, you've got yourself 3 charters, 7, 71, 77 car. Now you're going to go out there and you're going to make sure that you got 3 full-time drivers for your operation. This means there's an odd man out. We'll get to that here in a second. Your 3 guys, from the best that we can tell, next year, now. 7 car, Corey LaJoie. They like the guy. I get it. Okay, Corey LaJoie is a good guy. Very personable, amiable, shows up well on camera and on microphone. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily performing that well on the track this year, but we'll see. We still got the rest of the year. Maybe he heats up over the summer. You go to the 71 car, which we just talked about. That'll be Michael McDowell next year. We'll talk about who he's displacing in a moment. 77 car, Carson Hocevar. This kid making a strong run for Rookie of the Year.
He's been the pleasant surprise, the very, very pleasant surprise this year, because now all of a sudden the 77 has not even been within the same boundaries of the racetrack for 2 years. Now all of a sudden 77's in the ballgame.
Mm-hmm.
There's consistency there. I mean, with you take away the last restart last week, he's top 12.
Mm-hmm.
He's there at that threshold, taking little steps at a time, but he's there. Spire's a threat for consistency. Let's say that.
That's a good word for it.
They're a threat.
I like that.
I didn't go as far as to say legitimate threat.
Well, I would say certainly you got to make sure that you understand they're probably going to be top 20, top 15 they're occasionally going to get top 10s. They just keep making those advancements. And there was a time when we would not have considered Spire Motorsports for a top 20.
I wouldn't have even considered them for a top 25.
So when you stop and think about that and what they've been able to accomplish just in the last, 2-3 years, really, it's impressive what they've been able to do. So with Michael McDowell over there, that is definitely going to change things up because now Michael McDowell, no disrespect to Corey LaJoie, Michael McDowell becomes your elder statesman. He becomes the man who knows how to get it done because he's done it at Front Row.
Yep.
Now we'll see exactly what they got. Of course, as we mentioned, that means that one driver suddenly finds himself without a ride next year.
He's got a ride.
He'll
have a ride.
But as of right now, he doesn't have one.
It's just where.
Right, as of right now, he does not have one. We're talking about one of the other heralded rookies that came up straight from the Truck Series up to Cup in Zane Smith. Now, Zane is technically signed to Trackhouse.
And he was on Trackhouse only, on loan from Trackhouse only this year to Spire.
Yeah.
It was not multi-year loan. It was only this year only.
So this tells me one of two things. Trackhouse is going to be very serious about going after a charter, Stewart Haas Racing,
Colleague.
or Daniel Suarez or Ross Chastain is on a hot seat. And I'm sorry, I don't see Ross Chastain being on a hot seat.
I don't see Suarez on a hot seat.
Yeah, I'm not so certain I would see Suarez on that hot seat either because Daniel Suarez has a great following fan-wise and very, very easy for him to get sponsorship.
Sure.
Because he's got that kind of a personality to where sponsors go to him.
Mm-hmm.
So now Trackhouse is in a very interesting position of, do we have the money to go out there and get the charter that we want? Number one. Number two, are you going to find the seller? That one might be a little bit harder. Finding the money to do it's one thing. Finding the willing seller is another.
Or three, you take your two-car team and you merge it with another two-car Chevrolet team. There's your 4 cars.
What other two-car Chevrolet operation is there?
I think that little operation's based in Welcome, North Carolina.
Yeah.
On the campus of RCR.
3 little initials. We'll see.
Yeah.
Again, long way to go between now and the end of the year. Silly season has just begun. And it is still rife with rumors.
Oh, I'm not talking about that RCR team. I'm talking about the other team that's based in Welcome.
Oh.
Colic.
That's true. Yeah, it could be them. I don't know. Time will tell.
They already have a working relationship.
Yeah, time will tell. We'll see. But again, a lot of rumors out there. It's the very beginning, it's the very start, and it doesn't matter what series we're talking about. You can talk NASCAR, IndyCar, Formula One. We've just now gotten this started.
Yep.
We got a long way to go. Strap in. It's going to be a fun, if a little bit bumpy ride. Then there was the fun ride of Sunday. Once you got past all the rain, which delayed the Kansas race for 3 hours. But man, when they got to racing,
That was, what's the word I'm looking for here? And I'm going to use this word very loosely. That was arguably your best 1.5 mile race of this car's era.
And that's saying something because you and I had the chance earlier this year to be in Atlanta. And I get it. Atlanta's a different rules package than Kansas, but it's still a 1.5 mile track.
I'm even going back to the 2022 Coke 600 when it was a knockout race, too.
I get it. I fully get it. But when you think about the end of that Atlanta race, and we've showed you this on our full show, on our Saturday show, Championship Racing Network, CRN.
Look it up. 3
wide at the end. And the difference between first and second was .0002.
002.
Yeah, 002.
From first to third was .007.
Yeah. And then
that right there.
This little bit happened at Kansas because Kansas suddenly looked at Atlanta and said, hey, hold my Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
Look very, very carefully right here, this edge. Okay? The finish line, the start-finish line that's painted on the track, that's really for us, the fans, those who are watching on television. NASCAR has high-speed, high-resolution cameras that are doing something around the area of 600 to 800 frames a second to be able to catch pictures like this.
Right.
And these two lines, this little red line and that black line right there, are what NASCAR uses to figure out who ultimately is the winner of the race. Because we talked about this.
Yeah, I've still got questions about this.
Yeah, we've talked about this whole thing specifically with the transponder, and I'll let you deal with the transponder situation because transponder's not here.
No.
Transponder's back here.
Transponder's in the right rear corner of the car.
Okay, so the transponder is not what they're using to determine who hits the start-finish line first. The transponder is effectively a lap counter.
Which I could go from now to midnight about this because none of this makes any sense of how they just basically, in a way, they contradicted themselves.
Sure.
If you have transponders on cars, you use said transponders to even. Let me back up here. You know that little thing, that little word phrase they use going around the track called scoring loops?
Yeah.
I can tell you now, people, there are not cameras set up at every single scoring loop.
Oh, no. No. That is simply a wire that trips on the transponder.
That is exactly what that is. A wire that trips the transponder to go, oh, okay, car 5 was the official leader. When the caution fell, he was ahead of car 17 by .002. That's for an example. Car 5 is your leader under caution. If we're not using transponders at the start-finish line, but we're using them everywhere else, why are we even using them?
It's a good question. It is an official lap counter.
Sure.
Okay. And it does take away needing somebody to just sit there and go, okay, 5 cars, lap. I've seen it done manually.
I have too.
Okay. Short tracks tend to do it because transponders are a bit expensive when you start to deal with the lower levels. I mean, Birmingham International Raceway,
they are.
Back when it was still in existence, Talladega Short Track, any number of other short tracks.
I've ran transponders in several races.
But it's not the cheapest thing.
No.
Okay. So not all tracks have the ability to use the transponder activity because they just don't have the money for it.
Right.
Okay. So they're going to use it for every other one, but on the start-finish line, and I kind of understand this, you want to make sure that you get the winner right.
Sure.
But the question is did they? Did they really get the winner right? And I'm not trying to take anything away from what Kyle Larson did, or Chris Buescher for that matter, who's in the 17 car down here. You want to talk about putting on a show.
That was a show.
And I can tell you right now where Chris Buescher messed up. And you can do it too.
I can look at the picture and tell you where he messed up.
Oh, but it was half a lap ago. Go back to them on the back straight going into turn 3 and watch as Chris Buescher leaves the top lane open.
You don't leave the top lane open for that guy in the 5 car.
Not in the 5 car.
He's going to eat you up every time.
That guy in the 5 car loves to go out and rim ride way up high up against the wall and sometimes even scrape the wall. That is where he goes. For our producer, Molly, let's put it this way. When you watch the movie Days of Thunder and it says Cole Trickle goes to the outside every time, Kyle Larson.
If you go to the high side, you can't hold it.
And Kyle proves that almost every time. When Chris started to go into turn 3 and he dropped down and opened up that outside lane, I said, he's in trouble.
I did too. I was like, I thought, here we go. All right. Here's my biggest gripe with this entire thing. I'm fine with either one of them that would have won.
Sure, yeah.
I'm fine with that.
We don't have a dog in that hunt.
Phenomenal finish.
Absolutely. That's if there's any one thing that I would say was more important than anything else, continue to give us finishes like this.
I'll take that all day long. Here's my problem with that. One, transponder data tripped car 17 first.
Mm-hmm.
So that tells me at some point, that 17 car, whether it be this much or this much, tripped that transponder ahead of car 5. But you turn around and you look at the picture, And there can be some serious deception here on this picture, depending on how you look at it. If you look at the 17 car, look at the straight angle of the car. Now look at the 5 car pitching downhill at the slightest of pitches. That's how he got determined to win the race, my opinion.
And you may be right.
They flipped it. But
it's like the end of the first Cars movie.
yeah, true.
Lightning McQueen sticking his tongue out.
Stick your tongue out. But for the first time in the...
See, that was a racing reference that Molly got.
It was. For the first time in the existence of the CRM platforms of broadcast, I will agree with Jim Utter, and I despise the man.
Yeah.
But I agree with him on this.
We've been fairly vocal about our distrust of a lot of the stuff that he has posted.
Okay. After the race, he posted a tweet out. I'm still calling it Twitter. Forget the grainy picture.
Grainy picture. As I smack on the monitor.
Forget the line. Larson is the winner. Biggest question for me. Why can't the transponder result be trusted at the most critical moment of the race?
That's what we were just talking about.
That's it right there.
This is the only place where there is a camera. And I get it. You want photo proof that you have the winner, okay?
Sure.
And according to the photo, Kyle Larson's got that splitter just out front. Just 001.
They listed it at 001, but it was actually 0.0003.
That's 3/10,000ths of a second.
Which still does not get to the closest finish we've ever seen. 2018 General Tire 200 at Talladega, 0.0002.
Yeah. ARCA race. Go look it up.
ARCA.
But you've got a situation now where you saw this close finish at Kansas. You saw the close finish on Saturday at Kansas in the Xfinity Series race.
Sure.
Which, if I remember right, was a .002.
That was
or something like that.
I can't remember.
Either way, Saturday, Xfinity, Kansas, close finish. Sunday, Kansas, Cup Series, close finish.
No, Xfinity didn't race. Xfinity was off. It wasn't trucks. Trucks
might have been the ARCA race. It was a car race.
Yeah.
So I want to say it was the ARCA race. Go back to Atlanta, .002. Go back to Talladega 12 years ago, .002. Go back to Darlington 20 years ago now, and one of the most famous finishes in all of Cup Series history between Kurt Busch and Ricky Craven, .002. There's a reason why we have a camera here. But now you've got all these scoring loops, and I get it, depending on the size of the track, depends on how many scoring loops you've got. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you're gonna rely on the transponder every other one except for the start-finish line.
But the most critical part of the track.
I think you ought to be consistent around the track. You're either going to rely on the transponders all the way around or you're going to rely on cameras all the way around. Which one is it?
At the start-finish line, you have your transponder data as official data, but use that as backup for verification. They use that as the primary with the transponder as the backup. It don't work like that. That transponder is there for a reason.
Yeah.
They don't put those $900 to $1,000 transponders on those cars just for giggles. It's there for a reason.
Use it properly.
If not, let DW get Stevie Waltrip back down there like she used to do in the old days, count laps.
Yeah.
Click, click, click. It's just...
Be consistent, NASCAR.
Yeah, thank you.
Be consistent.
Thank you.
That's all we're asking. And right now, you're not.
Nope.
You're not.
Now for the fun part.
Yeah. We'll have a little fun here. And I'm going to lead off with Matt here. And usually, and we'll probably go a little more in depth into this on Saturday because we got John, our regular Saturday producer, and I just like to throw a whole bunch of pictures at him anyway, just basically to tick him off. But we didn't want to inundate Molly with a whole lot of pictures here because, you know, we can go through this kind of rapid fire. So usually what we have is Darlington. And again, there's a reason we're wearing these shirts that date back to 2019. These are the shirts that we wore at Darlington, the famed 24 Hours of Darlington weekend.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh, we'll have to tell that story.
Oh, that story, yeah.
We might tell that next week.
I can bottle it up quick. I can bottle it up real quick.
Yeah, it was, well, yeah, it was Throwback Weekend. It was Labor Day in this particular case when Throwback Weekend was, because back then they only had one race. Mm-hmm. And we get there, because it's a night race, we don't have to be at the track until what? 10, 11 o'clock?
We were in the tower, I remember, at 9:30 a.m.
Okay, so we got there a little bit early just because we had gotten up, we got breakfast, and did everything that we were going to do.
We were staying like 5 miles from the track in Florence.
Something like that, yeah.
Close.
Maybe 15 miles. But it was close. It was a nice place. Close. Nice place that the track put us up, not too far away from the track. And we went over there, and we were going to head out, grab a few hours of sleep, maybe go up to Charlotte, spend a little time at the NASCAR Hall of Fame, and then come home the next day, which was Monday, Labor Day.
That didn't happen.
We had a 4-hour rain delay. That race was sold out. 100% of the tickets gone, bought. And they all showed up for this race.
The race was scheduled to start at 6:30 Eastern.
4 hours later, we finally got past the rain, got the track dry, and were able to drop the green flag.
Here's the reason why they ran that race that night. Because at the time I forget which hurricane it was, the hurricane that got to the Bahamas and just sat there and battered daylights out of the Bahamas.
That one.
Then it was going to release up the East Coast. And from Darlington and Florence to the Atlantic coastline was under a state of emergency on Monday.
Yeah. So they wanted to get it in.
Governor McMaster said, boys, we're racing tonight.
Yep.
Kerry Tharp said, line them up.
Yep.
Let's go.
10:30 at night. Drop the green flag. 10:30 at night. Yep. We've already been there for 13 hours in that tower.
In Superman's booth.
We had to call down and ask for food.
Yep.
2:30 in the morning is when the checkered flag flew. Let me repeat that. 2:30 in the morning, Eastern time, the checkered flag flies.
Now this is a phrase right here I'm sure Molly's probably heard of shutting the bar down. We literally shut the racetrack down because we left at daylight.
Yeah.
The sun was coming up.
We got
was
down
21,
out of the tower, went inside, did a debrief with all of the executives, our immediate boss, Dennis Worden, who is now no longer at Darlington, unfortunately. Our boss from Talladega, who was over there, who is now would be our boss at Darlington, Russell Branham, he was in there. We debriefed with them, and as we left, we hit I-20 eastbound to head to Florence to the hotel, and the sun was coming up over the horizon.
Yep.
We got, maybe 4 hours of sleep?
If that.
And we looked at each other and said,
time to go home.
We're not going to Charlotte. We're going home.
We're going to the house. We're going to the house.
It was a lot of fun, though, and I would love to do it again. And, of course, that's wide open to Russell and everybody at Darlington that we're ready, willing, and able to go back at any point in time. But, again, it goes back to the throwbacks. Mm-hmm. And a lot of these teams, it was originally just the Cup Series. Mm-hmm. And then the Xfinity Series embraced it, and then the Truck Series said, hey, wait a minute, what about us? Mm-hmm. So in this case, we're going to show you, he's going to show you 4, I'm going to show you 4. I'm going to show you, and he will show you our number ones from the Truck Series, Xfinity, and Cup, and then our overall winner. You had a hard time picking in the Cup Series.
I had to go 1A, 1B in Cup because I had a tough time.
And there's a reason why I've got a 4th Cup Series one, and it's not because I couldn't decide. This isn't really a throwback. I just wanted to give it as an honorable mention because I thought it was such a cool thing that this team did.
Sure.
So, Matt, we lead off with you, and you do it how you want to. You can either do it in overall rankings of 3, 2, 1.
I'm gonna go Truck Series, Xfinity, Cup.
Okay.
And I'm gonna go 1B, 1A in Cup, and then at the end I'll give my best in show.
Okay.
Truck Series. I went with Front Row Motorsports, of all people, Front Row Motorsports.
Huh. Kind of that recurring theme here when it comes to this particular show, isn't it?
And their throwback to the old Scott Riggs RC Cola.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I looked at that, and that's
what I went with.
That was in my top 3. Yeah,
That's
I'll
the one
grant you that. That was in my top 3.
I went overall with that one because that one was a no-brainer to me. Every time I see that scheme, I don't think of Scott Riggs, honestly. I think of Stacy Compton
I could see that.
in the old 86 Dodge
Sure.
RC Cola truck.
Yeah, I could see that. Very similar to that, too.
Yep.
Okay. All right. What you got next?
I thought we're going to alternate or go straight.
We're going to go straight you.
Xfinity.
Ah, yes.
The Robert Presley Alliance tractor trailer scheme that Jeremy Clements is running. That one, in my opinion, for Xfinity, wasn't going to get touched.
Yeah. And the thing about it is, I mean, the fact that they were able to get Alliance to do that.
Alliance Driveway Solutions and match up the fonts of it.
Perfect.
But lined up straight up.
I mean, you couldn't ask for much more of a matchup than that.
Yep.
That's very well done.
Right.
Agreed. Okay.
1B in Cup.
All right. We're getting there. There it is.
Zane Smith, Dave Marcus, K&K Insurance throwback.
Yeah, anytime you can throw back to Dave Marcus is a cool thing.
I still think of that as Bobby Isaac throwback.
Yeah,
But
the font on that number does kind of
Bobby
lead you to
Isaac
that.
and Dave Marcus drove the same car.
Sure.
So that was my 1B.
Yeah. And the fact that they did the 358 CI on that, it's just, I love it when they do that.
For the 1A in Cup, and I'll say this before she posts it, it's not the throwback that you think it is. I found one that I personally think is just a tick better than the one that is the most popular one that everybody's liking so far.
Okay. Go for it.
1A. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Mark Martin throwback to 04 Bud Shootout.
They did hit that one very, very well.
They nailed that one.
Yeah. Yep, they did.
My best in show that I went with is the Xfinity scheme for Robert Presley that Jeremy Clements did.
Yeah.
That was my best in show.
Okay. I see the argument.
Because when it came out, I said, I think I just found one that may be the best in show.
All right. So here's the question for our podcast producer, Molly. Is she going to put my pictures on that one or my pictures on this one? You're going to put them over here? Okay, good. So we got them side by side. You can leave that one up there. Cool.
Yep.
All right. So we're going to lead off Craftsman Truck Series. Going to go with the actual theme of what the weekend at Darlington is supposed to be. It's supposed to be the roots of racing, right?
Grassroots, yep.
Nice Motorsports driver Bailey Curry throwing it back to a late model driven by Cody Efaw.
That's a good one. I saw that one. Chuck Efaw.
Chuck, yeah, sorry, not Cody.
Yeah,
I mean,
Cody's dad, Chuck.
They just, the striping, everything, you couldn't ask for much better. They did a fantastic job, in my opinion.
Very good.
Xfinity Series. I really like the Robert Presley one. But the way that they hit on this old Kyle Petty Hot Wheels look, I had a hard time not going with it.
That is a good one. And then the Alpha Prime logo in the shape of Petty Enterprises on the front.
Yep. I mean,
yep.
You couldn't have asked it for it to have been much closer to that. The only thing you might have been able to do was actually get Hot Wheels to sponsor you for one race.
Yeah.
All right, here's the honorable mention. And it's mainly due to the fact that, again, this isn't a throwback look. It's more of an honor from Spire Motorsports to our police officers around the country. This is the look that Carson Hocevar is going to sport in the 77 this weekend.
That is a good one.
Classic black and white. Love the cop car look. You know, it's what we all grew up with because we all watched TV shows like Adam 12. Mm-hmm. And that's what, that's the traditional black and white. And I'm seeing a lot of police precincts going back to this. Mm-hmm. And I love the fact that they're doing it. And the fact that you get to honor these men and women in blue all around the country. Kudos to them. Is it a throwback? No. It's why it didn't win. But I had to show it because this is just a cool look.
Yeah, that is a good one.
And that brings me to the Cup Series, and for me, the overall best in show, and this is the one that you are probably referring to. Throw it up there, ladies and gentlemen, Kyle Larson. 5-car. This is Hendrick Motorsports. This is the 5-car. This is thrown back to Terry Labonte. They did everything but get the Cornflakes logo on it.
Yeah.
It's the same font that Cornflakes is in, the same slant to the number, the same coloring, everything up to just slightly missing the location of the number.
The same Valvoline logo on the quarter panel, too.
Yeah. I mean, everything is the same except for this number being forward because of where NASCAR has ordered the numbers to be put on these Cup cars.
I don't want to go down.
Otherwise, that is dead on, save for the fact that it doesn't have the Cornflakes logo on it. That to me, and I like that one. Don't get me wrong. I think they hit it dead on.
They did.
Save for maybe the font of the number.
Well,
and I get it. It's hard to replicate that 6 with a 47.
If they could have, I'm sure they would have.
Yeah.
But scheme, layout, and even sponsors.
Yeah. And they
hit it.
Yeah, they did. No doubt about it. And I love the fact, and you and I have talked about this on many occasions, I love the fact that NASCAR and these teams have embraced this weekend so much and so well, because do yourself a favor. Whether you go on to jski.com and look up paint schemes, you go to Darlington Raceway's website.
They have a link where all of them there.
And you can actually vote on your favorite. Or go on to these teams' Twix accounts, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. I'll call it Twix. Go on to these teams' Twix accounts and start looking up their own reveals of these paint schemes. And you'll see just how good these are. And there are many of these teams, they'll do a card like this where you see multiple iterations of the car, but on the inset, they'll show you the car that inspired that look.
That one was like 1A.A instead of 1B.
Yeah.
That was like 1A.A, and I give 1A to that one.
Yeah, I get it. I love the fact that Darlington does this, and I hope that they continue to keep it up for many, many years to come, because there are so many different paint schemes you can throw back to. There are eras you can throw back to. There are different things you can do. Mm-hmm. Keep doing it. Let these teams be creative, have a good time. I mean, with the fact that you don't actually have to paint the car now, these are all wraps. Yep. There's so many great things that they can do. Mm-hmm. And I love to see the creativity.
Yep.
Love to see the creativity.
Absolutely.
Saturday, back to 2 hours. John will be back in the producer seat. Thank God. I want to thank Matt Murphy. I got to say this. Our good friend from here in the Birmingham area who's gone up to Nashville, I want to thank him. He appeared late in the show last Saturday, and we talked about Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. We also talked about a little bit about Formula One, something that we mentioned on the show here last week on this podcast, where Congress had sent a letter to Formula One saying, hey, wait a minute, we might be slapping you with a Sherman antitrust deal. We got much more in depth with that with Matt, and then we talked about Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. I want to thank him again for appearing on the show, and hopefully we'll be able to do that again. But yeah, we're going to go a little bit more in depth here and show you a lot more pictures during the 2 hour podcast or 2 hour show. I'm so used to podcast now. During the 2 hour show. So we're going to have a lot of fun with that. And of course, bring you all the news and hey, dive in a little bit more on this whole Michael McDowell to Spire Motorsports thing. Caught us totally blindsided. And who knows, maybe between now and Saturday, I'm not going to count on it, maybe we'll get a little bit more light shed on this whole Stewart House Racing thing.
Right.
Maybe Tony Stewart will actually say something. I don't know. NHRA's not running here for not this weekend, but the next weekend. So he has the opportunity to say something. Will he? We'll find out. And we'll let you know about it all. Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central Time. It's called the Championship Racing Network. Go to YouTube, look up CRN Live. You can get us there. And hope you join us then. And join us again next week as we get to episode number 11 of Crossed Flags right here. Join us then, okay?
See ya.
You've been listening to Crossed Flags, a racing podcast. For more content like this, subscribe to CRN Live on YouTube, and you'll be set to catch the 2 hour live show every Saturday morning at 9 Eastern, 8 Central.
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.